Welcome to episode 2 of Not Financial Advice, where you guys call in, you leave a voicemail, you send me your situations, and I tell you what I would do in your position. Now, as the series indicates, this is not professional financial advice. This is just my honest advice and opinion on what I would do given your scenarios. So if you do want to be in a future video, make sure you drop a voicemail. The number is in the description as well as the pinned comment. Now let's jump into the first caller.
Hey JP, it's Justin. Really like the video series. I appreciate the content you put out. My question was, if you are trying to balance between different savings goals, what is striking the right balance there? My situation, I'm 24. I've got a emergency fund set up and am putting 20% of my income into my 401k. I have kind of a non-traditional situation with my company where 100% of contributions are matched 50 cents on the dollar up to the IRS limit. So obviously a much higher match than other companies. So it's difficult to balance considering traditional advice is getting maximum 401k coverage, match, and then investing into other sources. So my family and I are looking up on saving for a down payment on our home. Just looking for your advice on balancing between trying to be able to get that full match versus saving for the short term and able to purchase a house. Appreciate your advice and thank you.
Well, this is a very interesting scenario. I appreciate you leaving the voicemail here because with most 401ks, this is a very, very unique situation. For most companies, they typically will match between like 3 to 6% of most people's salaries. And so a 50-cent match up to the IRS limit basically means if this caller here puts in $24,500, that his employer can match up to $12,250 a year in free money. So in total, he'd be investing $36,000 a year, even though he's only putting in 24 of the 36,000, which is just insane. This is a very rare thing, and if I had to take a guess here, I would say you probably work for a big tech company because those are the only companies I've heard of that even do matches like this. But regardless, I understand your predicament because that's definitely a 401k match you don't want to ignore. But if you want to save up for a house, how do you figure out both of these things at the same time? And the traditional advice of getting that 401k match and then maybe focusing on a Roth or saving for a house, that still applies here, but that math is on a lot bigger scale. And so one thing that is a little bit tricky here is we don't know your exact income, but the main thing that matters here is whether that 20% of your income that you're investing, is that actually going to hit that $24,500 IRS limit or not? Because if it's not yet hitting that 24.5 limit, then you kind of have two different levers that you can pull. The first one is you can keep increasing your contributions towards it while also carving out the house savings from the remaining 80% of your income. Or if you're already going to hit the limit, then the logic shifts entirely to how you can structure the rest of your take-home pay between living expenses and the down payment fund. Now, based on you having the predicament here, if you were already hitting the limit, I don't think you'd be in this predicament. So I would assume that you're not hitting the limit yet. So the main thing that you'd want to do now is try to just keep throwing that 20% of your income towards it. And then if you can, try to carve out some of that house savings out of that remaining 80% of your income. And one of the key things I want to emphasize here is you don't have to fully solve the house situation before you're investing and getting the match. And you also don't have to fully invest before saving up for the house. Like both things can be done at the same time. They might just be done at different speeds, which is perfectly fine. And this is kind of what I would do if I were in your position, is that I would try to do both. Like each year, if you can keep saving up for the house and then trying to, maybe you're increasing your 401k, maybe you're getting raises, maybe you're getting bonuses, just keep throwing that towards the 401k until you can hit that ceiling, but also trying to put money aside for the house. Because even if you can save a certain percentage of your income towards the house and then have a certain percentage still going towards that 401k, even if the house savings rate does feel slow, it's a lot better to have it be slow and steady than to completely neglect this 401k match. Because like I said, this is a very rare thing. Like most people, 99% of people are not going to be in this situation with the 401k. But it's a lot better to have the house savings rate be slow than to just pause one of the two things and focus on the other one entirely. That's just my opinion here. But one thing I do want to point out is as you start to save up towards the house, make sure you're putting that money, I would say, in a high yield savings account. This is what I did when I saved up for my first house. That way you're at least getting interest on it along the way, because if the down payment is 30, 40, 40, 50, maybe it's even $80,000. Like it could be a lot of money. You definitely want that earning at least 3.5, 4%. And the best part about a high yield savings account is that it's very liquid, it's normally protected, and it's actually growing a little bit while you're still working towards the purchase. And so you definitely want to at least get some yield out of that. But I would not invest that money towards the down payment. Like make sure it is in a high yield savings account. That way you're not sitting there putting all that money into some risky asset. And that also goes for the stock market as well. I would not invest your down payment money towards a stock market, because what if the market drops 30% over the next couple of years and then you have to wait for it to recover? You don't want to deal with that. Like just keep putting that money to the side in that high yield savings account. And one thing that you did mention that I did kind of have a question about is you mentioned that you do have a family, and that's part of the reason you want to save up for a house. So my question for you is there a second income in the household? Like, does your partner actually work a 9 to 5, or do they work at all? Because if they do, what you can do is you can focus on the 401k side, and your partner's income could be more focused on saving up for the house. And then I feel it could be like kind of a hidden lever that would make everything work. That way you can get that great match, and then you could still use your partner's savings to save up to buy the house, because you're a team. That's the way I try to view that, at least. So that is my take on how I would approach that situation. Very unique situation to be in, and I definitely say you're in a great position right now, so just keep at it. Alrighty, so that is caller number 1. Now jumping into caller number 2 here.
Hey man, it's me. No, but really, I'm from Northern Jersey. I got a free master's right now from a local university. I just want to maximize my outcome. Basically, a lot of people seem in finance to do the best, want the best. Best. To me, just from where I live and everything, and the kind of life I have and being married to my husband, if I get a job that pays me 100-ish K stably and could kind of keep me paying and keep me good and kind of keep to inflation and have cheap benefits, it's all that really matters to me. Especially doesn't slave me too hard. That's really it. Because I want to know if there's any way to make sure I can secure that, whether it be through government contracts or certain businesses that you may or may not know. Because I believe that people go into finance, they only want the best of the best. They want to see the highest cut of meat, investment banking, private equity, private credit, all that shit. But to me, that shit really don't matter, because what's the point of having all this money if I'm wasting away my 20s? Just a thought, but maybe you could talk about some lower end jobs that still pay well, or some jobs that may not be as glamorous, but it still gets you kind of right in some companies that may have that ability to secure that, just because even finance job, even the lower middle end, still pay more than most jobs in the higher end. Thanks.
I actually love this voicemail because it's a very interesting thing. Not many people have this mindset, especially in the finance space, because a lot of times you see the finance bros that glorify the $300,000 investment banking grind, but nobody talks about the fact that they're working 80 to 90-hour weeks. They have horrible mental health. They're completely burnt out. Even if they find a partner, they normally get divorced because they're spending all of their time at work, and they completely waste their 20s because they're just grinding the 9 to 5. And I think that the fact that you can realize that's not the life you want is a very mature take. And $100,000 with good benefits, low stress, and time for, work-life balance, that is a great outcome. So do not ever let social media or just the finance world make you feel any different to that, because you have to do what you think is best for you. And it sounds like you know exactly what that looks like, which is awesome. So in regards to like stable 100K a year jobs, it sounds like you already kind of hinted at this, but there are quite a few government and federal jobs that can pay between, I'd say, $80,000 to $120,000 a year, whether that's in finance or accounting, or maybe that's just like different contracting things that have really good job security. They have pensions, they have good work-life balance. And so it seems like you're already aware of that. And another thing too is because you have a master's, you might even start at a higher pay. That's my understanding. A lot of times with those like government or a lot of those like state type jobs is if you have more education, you tend to start at a higher starting point, which is also great. So I'd say like a government or a federal job in finance would be great. I can't think of a specific role off the top of my head, but I would say any type of like financial analyst or a budget analyst, or whether it's an analyst for the federal government, or maybe it's different like municipalities, or even just like a local government. I think that could definitely be a good move there. Another one that I do feel like is a little bit underrated is utility companies. I'm talking about like electric and gas companies. They tend to pay pretty well. They're very stable and they're not going anywhere. Like people need electricity and gas. So I do feel like that industry is pretty stable. As well as kind of going off that point, I do feel like healthcare finance is pretty good. I know we have a couple of people in the Discord that work in finance in the healthcare side of things, and it seems like just a very stable industry, because kind of like what I was saying before, everybody's going to need healthcare regardless of how the economy is doing. Like people are always getting sick, people are always going to need healthcare. That's just a necessity in society. So if you could find like a hospital system or maybe a really large healthcare network that needs, I would say financial analyst is going to be kind of the role you're going to want to hop into. It doesn't necessarily have to be corporate finance, but it sounds like you don't want to go down the private equity route, which I completely understand. You don't want to go down like the consulting route, or I would say investment banking. So this is kind of where I would land, is any type of analyst role. And a lot of times sometimes with those healthcare companies, the benefits are really good too. So that's a pretty nice thing. And then the last suggestion I would say, and some people morally may not agree with this, but defense contractors are very reliable companies, because if you live in the United States of America, you know why we don't have free healthcare. It's because of America, and we got those defense contractors pumping out money like nobody's business. I'm talking about the Lockheed Martins, the Raytheons, all those companies. They are constantly hiring finance and accounting roles that are very stable, they pay well, and I don't think they're super cutthroat. I actually know a few people that used to work for defense companies, and they've told me it's a very, I'm not going to say easy, but it's not that stressful of an environment to work in. But again, if that goes against your morals, I completely understand. It's whatever you want to do. And another point I do want to make here is that having $100,000 that is invested wisely over a career, that beats out people that make $300,000 that's spent on basically a lifestyle that matches their income. They make $300,000 and they want everybody to look at them and think they make $300,000. They care way too much about what other people think. And if you're somebody that's frugal and lives within your means, you can still build a ton of wealth off of 80, 75, 100, 120K a year. You don't have to be making $300,000 a year to become really wealthy. Like, you truly do not have to. Because somebody that's making $100,000 with low expenses, good benefits, and a pension, they can retire earlier and wealthier than somebody that's making $250,000 in investment banking. Especially if that $250,000 person is spending $200,000 a year to maintain their lifestyle just to burn out at age 45. And so it's not always about the income, it's actually about the gap between your income and your expenses. So this was a really unique call. I really liked the question you had for me there, and I hope you can find a really good job that can put you in this exact position you're hoping to be in. Alrighty, now jumping into caller number 3.
Hi JP, my name's Evan. I've been watching a lot of your videos lately. I've been very inspired by them. I just graduated in December and got a finance degree from the University of New Hampshire. And for the last month or so, I've been working as a line cook at this restaurant. And just today, actually, they assigned me a project in their finance department, and it seems like I'm going to be involved with finance and operations at a back end kind of level. And kind of the thing I've been going back and forth on is, do I want to go down that hospitality management kind of supply chain, back end kind of career path, or traditionally what I saw myself doing, which is wealth management, kind of like the typical Fidelity career path that a lot of people go down, or just corporate finance in any other kind of company. This company I'm currently at is very small, and I don't know exactly what they might offer me, but I'm very passionate about hospitality and the restaurant industry, and want to get your thoughts on kind of the opportunity cost of choosing that versus maybe a more higher paying field, something that more people would probably gravitate towards. Thank you.
Okay, so the first thing that is good news here is that you're only 22 years old. So whatever decision you make, it's not permanent. You just graduated pretty recently. You've been a line cook for a month. You're not, fully locked into anything yet. And the fact that this small company that you're working for already handed you a finance project, it didn't even sound like you asked for it. That's actually like a really good sign. So I would definitely at least pay attention to that. I think one thing that's interesting about your current situation is you stumbled into a finance role inside a hospitality company, which is kind of a rare combination that most people, I feel like, do not have. In hospitality, finance, and operations, like, that is a career path, whether it is with hotel companies, whether it is restaurant chains, whether it is really large food and beverage companies. They all need finance people who actually understand the industry. And most finance guys don't know hospitality, and most hospitality guys don't know finance. And the fact that you potentially know both does put you in a very unique position. But in regards to the main thing you're kind of talking about, whether you should go down this path or whether you should go down the wealth management path or corporate finance, with the wealth management path, it can be a legit thing over a long period of time, but those first couple of years, regardless of what company you work for, it is very sales driven. It's a ton of cold calling. You're trying to build a book of clients. You might be knocking on doors. Like, you are basically a full-time salesman at that point. And it can pay well long term, but you got to build up a book of business, and you're basically just trying to just grind as hard as possible to get as much assets under management as possible. And it sounds like you don't want to go down that path, which I totally get. In corporate finance, that can be a flexible path, but if you're not interested in it, then don't do it. In my honest opinion, passion for an industry is real, and that matters a lot more than going into something that might pay a little bit better. But I think the main question here isn't, oh, do I love restaurants and the hospitality industry? I think the main question for you is, do I want to build a career in the business side of this industry that I love? Because if the answer is yes, then that's a very viable path and you should definitely take it. But one thing you do want to consider about the opportunity cost of this is that hospitality finance generally pays a little bit less than a lot of other finance jobs. So it sounds like you're already at least somewhat aware of that. But I do feel like if you are passionate about the industry, then the ceiling rises because you're going to outwork and outlast people who are just there for the paycheck. So if I were in your position, I would just see where this finance project is going to take you. At the end of the day, it's just going to be a resume builder, which is great. It costs you absolutely nothing and you're going to be getting a lot of real experience from it. So that's awesome. What I would also do is try to give it at least like 6 months to maybe a year, try to keep building up your skills and see if the company grows in the role. And if even after the year, you still feel like you may want to pursue, a traditional finance role, whether that is wealth management or corporate finance, you're still going to have real experience on your resume instead of just a degree in a line cook job. And there's nothing wrong with being a line cook, but it's good to at least have that finance experience that you're going to get right now. And one thing I really do want to reiterate is you're 22 years old. There's really no wrong move here as long as you're just moving and you're gaining experience, and over time you're going to be just stacking your skills up. And I really wish that I knew this when I was 22 because I felt like I had to just be in the perfect position making a ton of money, and that's not always the case. The goal is just to trend upward and keep growing over a long period of time. It doesn't mean that you're going to be growing every single year, every single month. You might even have times where you get set back and you might have a little hiccup in life, and that's okay. That's very normal. But like I said, you're very young. Just be patient with yourself, and I hope that you can figure out what direction you want to go. And again, you don't need to figure it all out right now. So just remember that. So that is my third and final caller for the video. I appreciate all the voicemails. Again, if you guys want to leave a voicemail, I have the phone number in the description of the video as well as the pinned comment. That's it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, drop a like down below, hit that subscribe button. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.